Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are taking a look back at another old ship in the game. A much beloved ship, and one that I'm very sad to see in the state that it's in. That is, of course, the Tier 10 Japanese cruiser Zao. Now, as you can tell by the title of this video, my opinion of the Zao is that it's aged terribly, terribly, and that's what we're going to be going over today. But for those of you that don't know, what is the Zao? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Zao is the Tier 10 Japanese heavy cruiser, or just cruiser, because the Japanese, for some reason, haven't gotten a light cruiser split just yet. I guess you could argue the Japanese gunboat line kind of qualifies for that. But anyway, we'll run through her stats real quick and just go over the really important things, so the things that we will be talking about. So her hit points, she has 40,800. You might be saying, are you sure that's the fully upgraded hull? And I'd say yes, that is. 40,800 hit points. There's a lot of Tier 8 cruisers that pass that, and I'm pretty sure all the Tier 9 and Tier 10 cruisers do too. For her guns, she has 12 230mm guns that reload in 13.7 seconds with the build that I have on them, and that is the stock reload time. Her HE has an alpha of 3400, which is pretty good. It also has a 22% chance of causing a fire, which is pretty good. She has 34mm pins without IFHE because of the caliber of her guns, which is very good. Her AP has a maximum damage of 5400. The guns have a maximum range of 18.8 kilometers, which is okay. And the AP and HE come out of the barrels at 920 meters a second. She does have torpedoes. She has some pretty darn good torpedoes. I run the 12-kilometer torpedoes because I like throwing them down a flank and discouraging ships from pushing up. They have a range of, like I just said, 12 kilometers with the upgraded ones. They do 27,332 maximum damage, which is very good. They run at 67 knots, which is decent. And they reload in 171 seconds, which is quite a long wait. It's just under 3 minutes. AA doesn't really have the best AA. If you're with a couple other ships, you'll be okay-ish. Maneuverability, she runs around with the speed flag at 36.2 knots. She has a turning circle radius of 840 meters and a rudder shift time of 6.1 seconds with the rudder mod on. You can get it down to, I think, just under or over 4 seconds or 3 seconds, which is pretty memey. Concealment, she has a concealment range of 9.9 kilometers with a concealment build, which is very nice. So, all those stats that I just laid out, there's some good in there. There's a lot of good in there. The guns, for example, she has very good guns. She has that good Japanese HE Alpha. They are nice and accurate with the dispersion mod on there. And they have, again, that good Japanese HE fire chance and decent AP Alpha. But just like all of the Japanese cruisers, the pin angles aren't really that great. You have to be showing it really, really flat broadside for the AP to really ring out there and slap you. And the torpedoes, too. 23,000 damage on these torps. It's pretty darn good, isn't it? Yeah, sure. If you look at those stats by themselves, they are. But once you bolt them all to the ship... Also, Zao. What does Zao do? What is Zao? Well, if you would ask anybody that's played the game from like 2016 on, they'd say, oh, Zao's a great flamethrower. She sets my ship on fire from 18 kilometers away from the back of the map and disappears in between salvos, and it's very annoying to deal with. If you ask anybody that started playing like 2019 or 2020, they'll probably say, what's a Zao? Because this ship, it's still out there, and I'm sure people still grind the line, but not many players play the Zao anymore. And I can't really blame him. This should be clear, too. I'm not hating on this ship. I like the Zao. I enjoyed playing it after I unlocked it last year through that hypergrind session that I had. And I had some pretty decent matches in it to get going in it. But as time went on, the game continued to be very, very just unfavorable to Zao as the game's developed since that time last year. Now, I can't really point to a time and say this is when the Zao became just utterly useless. And I wouldn't really say it's useless anymore. It has its moments and it can perform well. It's just that the game is not very inducive to the Zao performing well, at least from what I've seen from trying to play her for over the past couple of months. a little bit more, especially today. I played this game from 9:30 in the morning to around 1:30 in the evening, and it was a truly miserable experience trying to play Zal. It was miserable in just about every way you can imagine. The teams on both sides, one team would just utterly get crushed, and I wouldn't have time to do damage. I wouldn't have time to really do anything. Most of these matches were 10-minute or below matches. I had a couple matches that were over in 4 minutes. I barely have seen that happen before. It's terrible. It was just frustrating. The Zal is a flamethrower. Its role hasn't changed. It hasn't received any big changes from Wargaming to change what the Zal does. So think about that. Zal's a flamethrower. Great at starting fires, has good HE alpha. You could probably name 2 or 3 ships just off the top of your head right now that do that better than Zal. They're not all necessarily cruisers. That's a big thing. Back in the day, from like 2015 to 2018, 2017, cruisers used HE, battleships used AP, DDs used HE. That was like the cardinal rules of the game. Battleships never touched HE unless they were in a bow tanking situation, and even then you would get those messages in chat, oh, you gotta use HE to beat me because I'm bow tanking better than you're bow tanking, you know. And Zal was very much a product of that time. She was great for that. But nowadays, Hindenburg does it better. Venezia can do it better, not even with fires, just with sap and her sap alpha. Frickin' Goliath can do everything the Zal does, but literally better, except for the torpedoes. Like, let's take a look at the Goliath and the Zal. Goliath, 12 guns just like the Zal, but she gets that British HE, with British HE alpha and British HE fire chance. Much, much better at doing it than the Zal. Okay, let's look at the hull. Zal is a Japanese cruiser, and we all know what Japanese cruiser armor is like. They tend to explode when you shoot at them. Zal is very much in the same boat as, like I described the Otago the other day. You get hit in like the smokestack or the propeller shaft, and somehow you get a citadel. Sure, both have a heal at Otago and Zal, but it's going to hurt after eating a citadel like that. Goliath has that super heal. You can shoot the thing in the citadel, remove all of its health. Doesn't matter. Dude presses T, he's got a new ship. You can do that 3 times in the Goliath. I know. I played Goliath last clan battle season. I was the punching bag for our team. AA. Goliath actually has pretty good AA. Much better AA than Zal. Come to the torpedoes. Goliath's torpedoes have a 10-kilometer range, and you can single drop them. Don't have near the alpha that Zal's does, but Zal still has the better torpedoes. So, in just about every single category except for torpedoes, the Goliath comes out on top. Oh, and stealth. Goliath can get her down to, I think, 11-ish kilometers. Zal's 9. A little bit better there. So, 2 categories. Zal's beats it out. But for what you get, the British HE with the British fire chance, Goliath is just clearly better than Zal. I mean, how many Zals have you guys seen if you play clan battles? How many have you seen in clan battles? And for the few of them that you have seen, because we did run across a couple of them, how well do they do? I tell you, Phantom blasted them in his Montana pretty easily. Anyway, so quite simply put, Zal's been power crept. But even in power crept ships, most of them can still perform pretty well in the game. In Zal's case, unfortunately, not so much. Because of the load time on Zal, and because of her range, I mean, keep in mind, I had to put the range mod on to get the ship out to 18.8 kilometers. Now, I know, 20-kilometer cruiser, you know, that, like, really, do we really need that? I know, but in the game today, so much of the game takes place at, like, 17 kilometers plus for at least the first 5 or so minutes of the match. And that's half the match when we're talking about these blowout matches when the match is effectively over by the 10-minute mark, or sometimes even by the 6 or 7-minute mark. So because of that, it takes time for the Zal to do damage. She's very much a damage over time ship, whereas if you had the Goliath, you'd have that British HE Alpha to throw on top of the fantastic fire chance. So with Zal, you really need the match to go at least past the 12-minute mark to really get in the damage. And I'm sure there's some of you Zal players out there, like I said about the Capitals beforehand, who have mastered your ship, and I'm sure you guys could do fantastically well. But for the casual cruiser player like myself, it's very challenging to do well on this ship. The highest damage game I had, you probably watched already, I probably have to move on to another game because of how short the match was about, I think, 78,000 damage. Which, for 10 minutes into the match, that's not bad at all. But the match is over. Whereas if I was in a Goliath, Hindenburg, Booster, insert HE spammy ship here, I probably would be at like 110, 120k damage by that time. And not necessarily in the cruiser either. Take Thunderer or Conqueror out, or even Republic with a proper build on it, and I could be farming that much damage with HE. So the Zal's just been surpassed in so many ways by so many other ships that just do what she does, but better, and Wargaming has refused to show the ship any love. The French cruisers got the reload booster. They had long load times. They gave them the reload booster to compensate for that. At no cost to them. I don't think they even changed any other stats about them when they gave them that reload booster. But Zal can't even get a reload buff. And the thing is, too, you can't really look at her stats because she's one of the oldest ships in her game. Her stats are, like, stuck in the middle. That's what happens over time. I mean, like I said, I like this ship. I really do. I like the idea behind it. I like the way it's set up. It has its place, but unfortunately, its place just isn't in the current meta anymore. It's been surpassed by so many ships that can do what she does, but so much better, and so much faster too, like I said, that she's kind of just left in the dust, and she desperately needs some love from Wargaming. And it's very sad to see these older ships treated like this, and just not get any love when they desperately need it. So if you think about going up the Japanese cruiser line, should you? I think you still can and have a good time. There's some very strong ships in that line. The Furitaka, the Ibuki. Those are some of the funnest ships I've played in this game. But unfortunately, the Zal herself she's a solid cruiser. Just not for World Warships in 2021, unfortunately. But that's what I think. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Enjoy the video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. When we hit 30,000 subs, can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.